All right, so we are getting ready to paint. I am going to show you guys a little tutorial on how to work. I grabbed a little assortment of brushes here. I would like to point out that you don't really need a brush of this size unless you're painting, a large area. So don't even bother with that one. These smaller ones are the best. I prefer the ones that are, they call them a flat. So they're kind of like squared off at the end because I'm going to use that corner to get really precise. This one's a filbert. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of more rounded. That one's also good. So what I usually do is I get like a bigger one to mix my paint, and then I get a smaller one to actually do the painting. You also need a cup of water, and I get a little paint rag. I've already shown you guys where those live. And then of course I've got my paint palette here. I'm gonna use black just because it's gonna show up better on the paper. And I might have to go and get my own hand there. So when you start, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that, other teenagers are using these brushes and they didn't clean them properly. So make sure that you clean your brushes before you start. I do, require everyone to clean their brushes, but never assume. Okay, so when I mix my paint, again, I'm using the kind of bigger brush. I'm gonna take just a little bit, and you always wanna add light to the dark. So I'm gonna start with this lighter color. And see, already my brush is kind of dirty, so it's already darkening that paint. If I want a little bit darker, then I add dark. Obviously, black is darker than this orange. So I don't wanna start with black and start adding orange to it, especially when I don't need that much paint. If it's a little dried out, I can add a little bit of water to it. All right, so again, I use my bigger brush to mix the paint. Then I put that in my water and I get my more precise brush. Now, when I go to paint on my paper, I'm not going to grab like a huge gunk. Let me just grab a bunch of black here. I'm not gonna grab a huge gunk of paint like that and go straight to my paper because it's gonna end up looking messy. What I do is I kind of like pull it to the side and I pull my paint out like that so that really I just have what I'm gonna need. I can always come back and get more if I need it, but I don't wanna go to my paper with a bunch of paint gooped on my brush because it makes it look goopy. All right, I might have to take this off the thing and show you. So I've got some paint on my brush. And this isn't the primary colors. Actually, I'm not going to use that worksheet. So when you guys start doing your design and stuff, so let's say I have a, I don't know, I'll just do like a little shape here. So again, look at my brush, right? I don't want to come all loaded up with a bunch of paint and make it all goopy, okay? I'm basically kind of just like pulling it out from there, so that my brush is going to be a little bit more precise. And the first thing that I do is I use that, look how sharp that little corner there is. I'm going to use that corner to get my edges really good. And then kind of fill in the middle. And see how my brush is starting to dry it out a little bit. So I'm going to go get some more. Again, just kind of pulling from that pile like I showed you. And again, I love using that corner or even that top edge. I just kind of threw that shape on there. I just add a teensy bit more water. But see how nicely I can get that edge. And then I can, be more haphazard filling in the middle, but I love these flat brushes for getting that edge really perfect. I use the corner, I use that straight edge. And once it starts to break up like it just did, I go back and I get a little bit more paint. And then I smooth it out. I don't want to leave a bunch of like paint texture. I don't know if you guys can see that. You don't want to leave it like that. Like, see how goopy that is? All that texture is going to dry. So you want to make sure it's smooth. You want to have less paint than too much paint, really. So I'm Let me get the rest of this shape here. I have to turn my paper. And then I come back and I kind of look at it. You can see the light reflecting. Just kind of make sure all of that is really smooth. And I'm not leaving all that textural stuff on there. All right, how to paint. If you can just switch colors or something, so I'm gonna come over here to my water. I have to do this one-handed because I'm holding my phone. And then you just kind of like blot your, and then you can go get your next color. Maybe I'll get this orange here. Now I don't want to come up because this isn't really dry yet. If I come up next to this, it's gonna smear. So if I paint another shape, I'll paint another shape over here. I'm not gonna paint right next to it because my guess is if I do so, it's gonna start picking up that black. Actually, the edges might be kind of dry by this point. But if they're not, then what's gonna happen is I'll come up next to that black and it's gonna start smearing it into the color. So as you guys work on your color scheme design, which has a lot of shapes, you probably wanna let a shape dry before you come back and paint next to it. And again, like, see how it's kind of goopy? Right, I'm just smearing that out a little bit. You also want to be consistent, like see how it's kind of thin paint right here and then thicker here, so the color isn't consistent. You know, you just go add a little bit more there. And then smooth out any kind of little raised paint that got left behind. Okay, have fun.